Manitoulin.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you,
Mr. Speaker.
For getting the opportunity to speak to this bill, G50, Ambulance Amendment Act 2012. As many of my colleagues have stated, there are many elements to this bill which are missing. While the bill allows Cabinet to appoint representatives to the Board of Designated Air Ambulance Service Providers and appoint a supervisor or special investigator, I am concerned that Orange will not be subject to the Freedom of Information. The Ontario Ombudsman will not have oversight of this agency. The lack of accountability is something I take issue to. We should be looking at expanding what the Ombudsman role is, which will bring that oversight, but it's something that is very much lacking in this particular bill. Although this bill allows the Minister to issue directives to air ambulance, I fail to see how that will change things that have been done and the way they were done in the past. The fact that the Minister of Health introduced this bill on the same day the Auditor General released his damning report of Orange seems more like a reactive approach. It appears more of an attempt to change the channel. But the bill still falls very short of being able to accomplish this. It's been clear that the Premier and the Minister of Health for months have been trying to push the blame on everyone else but themselves for the issue of Orange. Again today, during question period, fingers were being pointed across to the opposition. Fingers were being pointed across to the third party. But when you point a finger, let's remember that there are three other ones that are directed towards yourselves, and we should be really looking and taking that responsibility and being accountable for the decision or lack of decisions that have not been made with this. The Liberals have been trying to use the fact that Orange was a federally incorporated entity. However, I don't see how this prevented them from providing the necessary oversight to avoid this mess. After all, thank you. Ontario's hospitals are federally incorporated, and this has no impact on oversight whatsoever. This is an opportunity to create a bill that could prevent such disregard for taxpayers' dollars and ensure that it doesn't happen again. So I am unclear as to how this bill will actually do much to prevent us from seeing this time and time again. Blaming the opposition for this mess is not productive. Creating useful legislation is and absolutely must be something that we're working towards. So if this government can't even admit that they were wrong, that they had a role to play in creating this disaster, how can the general public and how can we trust that they are trying to find ways to actually assure Ontarians that this will not happen again? As I said from the start, someone needs to be responsible and we need transparency, rather than creating a bill that gives us just that. The Liberals have tabled one in which Orange continues to not be subject to the Freedom of Information requests. How can we trust a government who is clearly continuing to move forward with no transparency? When organizations know that they are under the Freedom of Information, they will undoubtedly behave in a different manner. One would think they would do so. So why are we proceeding in this manner? Why are we doing this? Yes, we are talking about the mismanagement of money. Not just a little bit of money, a lot of money, millions of dollars spent without proper responsibility and accountability. Taxpayers' money, this is a huge concern alone. However, what is more worrisome is that air ambulance deals with life and death situations. And when things go wrong, families deserve to know the facts and have closure. Depriving these grieving families from getting this information is unacceptable. Providing the information and the details would bring some type of credibility to this bill, but again, it lacks that provision. Ontarians would agree that organizations such as Orange need to be under the mandate of the Ombudsman. Vous savez, le gouvernement a présenté...
The government had a chance before them to redress the situation, to tackle this situation, to ensure their credibility. And in our health services, there are many questions, issues raised by the public. There are also doubts about the credibility of this government. There's an obstacle to an idea that it's the problem of someone else, to blame other people, blame other parties, and not to assume its own responsibility in the decision taken. The decision to look for an avenue, to look at what is the government, which responsibility and which decision it should take. It's their responsibility, it's their problems, and to take the steps necessary to redress the situation. That's the only way to go ahead about it. That give the right to the Ombudsman, for the Ombudsman to shed the light on their situation. And this bill doesn't do anything about it. And one asks the Ombudsman, if the Ombudsman had the rights and the authority and the power to monitor the situation, should we have this situation
today? So why have the Liberals not taken this step? Clearly, they are not really serious about preventing similar catastrophes in the future. In Algoma, Manitoulin, and much of Northern Ontario, we know how many of our services are being cut. We often travel great distances to seek medical attention, and there isn't funding for important health projects that our communities need. I speak to constituents who travel many hours away, traveling to either one end of the cycle, which is Sudbury, or the other end into Sault, or whether you're coming in from Hornepayne, Manitowoc down to Sault Ste. Marie. It is a day's event that you're going through. It is difficult for people to get to their areas. They have to do this. They can't spur at a moment have a discussion. It takes a couple of days to plan. It's difficult to explain to them how this government squanders healthcare dollars with zero accountability and transparency, and the healthcare situation in the North is severely deprived. Northern and rural communities need to know that when there is an emergency, there is help close by. This is not always the case for these folks. Without transparency in health organizations, Northerners are going to suffer again. The money is there to create a good healthcare system that makes patients, that makes people the priority, not the corporations, not the boardrooms. It makes people who should be at the front of the line, always when we're making these decisions. But clearly, the current leadership is failing to do this. This government needs to be accountable and put patients, our patients, taxpayers, their needs, and our healthcare system first. So I just want to reiterate a little bit of what I highlighted with my colleague from Cambridge. We really need to get to the bottom of the responsibility in order to bring accountability and the trust back to our healthcare system. People in Ontario deserve that. They deserve nothing less but that. But again, we need to get to that stage by having the discussions that we need, and they're the ones that should be at the front of the line on every decision that we make when it comes to healthcare dollars. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Questions?